All right, so welcome to this session, Yours to Make, Building Your Success as a GIS Professional. I'd like to start off just by thanking Randy and Samantha as well, and Eric and everybody else involved in Northwest GIS. I absolutely love this organization because I really enjoy the event and the people are absolutely fantastic. So thank you so much. I've been involved with this, doing things for a while now, and I really, really enjoy it and look forward to it. So thank you. And also thank you, Randy, for this morning. Some of you may have seen that my internet was out this morning to start with, and it was a serious panic. We had a power cut last night and things were still not working. So that, I hope, was a lesson in being prepared, because once I did get it back on, I was able to get right in, but it was scary. And I'm sorry, Randy and everybody else for causing some disruption there. There wasn't much I could do, really. Anyway, so in this session, like the last one, we do actually have a schedule. Now, I'm not sure, you can't really see that because it's, yeah, it's not really showing up on my camera. There you go, it's sort of flickered a little bit. But we do have a schedule, and not a schedule, that is, a schedule. And we will do our best to stick to it. We have a little bit of a time buffer. We started a few minutes in just to wait for people. We have a serious plan here. So let me get us going. The first slide here, these pictures, by the way, they normally don't have anything to do with the topic at hand. I just put up a nice picture every time. I've just done it out of habit for a few years now. And then in this particular case, Jen was the one who suggested, well, maybe this does have something to do with it. And I said, well, what do you mean? You know, and she said, well, in your GIS career, and any career for that matter, you start off in these sort of lowlands, open spaces, wandering around, wondering what to do. And then gradually things come together, and those mountains in the distance, you can climb those mountains. Or if you're Gary and me, as you'll see in a moment, you know, you might fall off them, you know. So mountains to climb, cliffs to die on, you know. I hope you'll go for the first one, the mountains, but you never know anyway. So yeah, the picture did have a little bit of relevance, and thanks, Jen, for that, you know. Now, when it came to the title, Yours to Make, Building Your Success as a GIS Professional, this came from a conversation Gary and I have had. We try our best to do the work that we're supposed to do together on a project, but we often get waylaid and we talk about this stuff for hours. And the thing is, it's possible to think that you have control over your life. You know, I didn't have control about 2 hours ago, but, you know, some people like Leonard Mlodinow, I hope I said that right, he bought a book called Random, and he argues in there's a lot of things happen that are totally out of our control. So do you have control? You know, maybe, you know, maybe not. So is it yours to make with a question mark? We'll see, and we can get your thoughts on that too. Or more appropriately, does it just take a long time and it's a hard slog, years to make, building your success as a GIS professional? Whichever one you like, you know. The whole point of this is that we raise the topic about building your success, and we'll offer our perspectives and encourage you to offer yours. So what we're going to do is try to be helpful. That's the number one goal of any of these sessions. We'll try and impart some wisdom. We've all been doing this for quite a while now, and we have a few ideas. We'll try and elicit thoughts. Now, for anyone sitting at the back that can't read that, that says elicit, not explicit, okay? The plan, we'll talk about our backgrounds, just to give you, try to establish some credibility here. Then we'll just have a quick section on your themes, and I'll explain what that means soon. Then we'll look at our perspectives. I'll go first, then Jen, Gary, and then Tonya. And then we'll have your perspectives. We'll have this time, hopefully we'll get to it. We'll have an audience engagement section, and then we'll end with some closing considerations. So our perspectives, what we're going to do is have a series of 12 4-minute presentations. And those presentations are very tightly organized in terms of a structure. And that structure has an overall theme. So this is a single word. And then we have a slide each on situation, outcome, and success, right? So we try to structure our thoughts in a way that's consistent throughout, and you'll be able to compare. And then we have related themes. We have 3 themes each. And this 3 business is important. I remember seeing someone a few years ago who basically said that if you have more than 3 things on a slide due to cognitive decline or something, you know, whatever that word is, if you have 4 items, 5 items, 6 items, your attention drops off basically, and you can't remember everything. Now, the goal is that after this presentation, you're going to remember 100% of how you feel, but you'll only remember 6% of what we actually say. Now, you can go back and look at the recording, but it's more important that we make you feel good than you remember every little detail, okay? So we'll try and make it enjoyable for you. So our backgrounds. I'm David Howes. I am a geospatial information scientist. I invented that term for my green card application, and I've stuck with it ever since. I have my own business, David Howes LLC, dhowes.com. I've been doing this a while. I started with getting a few degrees in the UK and in Buffalo, New York, got a PhD there. I've been doing GIS this a long time. My specialty, GIS tools, processes, and supporting infrastructure. That last bit is anything you can do to get the other stuff working. Okay, I started my own business in 2012, and gispd.com. It's not a police department. It's to do with professional development, as it says here in the bottom corner. And that's just an umbrella. That's all it is. It's a web address and a title for doing helpful things for people. And we've been doing this a long time. And when I say we, yeah, it's my domain, but there's probably at least 100 people been involved in sessions like this one way or another. And I'm hugely grateful for these guys, Tonya, Gary, and Jen here for getting involved in doing this, and for Eric and John and Dave in the last session. I'm really grateful to everybody who's been involved. Jen.
So I'm Jen Radcliffe, and I work for the city of Tumwater, and I'm also the magical mapper. I have a podcast, but anyway, I have a couple degrees from Kansas State University, and I noticed that everyone else put where theirs were, so I failed in that, but I attended in Manhattan, Kansas, which is also known as the Little Apple, because Manhattan. Yeah, anyway, so I've been in GIS for about 25 years, specialized in program management, data management, enterprise in local government settings. And I'm involved in the Washington Women in GIS and Technology group, which Tonya will talk more about. I like volunteering and podcasting. And I've been also won a SAG award. No brag. That was a brag.
Well done. A round of applause here for Jen. Well done. Gary, you're muted.
I got it. We can check that box now. Gary, you're muted. Hi, I'm Gary Montgomery. I work for the city of Lacey, Washington. I'm the GIS analyst here. I graduated from Shepherd University. I've been to Penn State. I've been doing this professionally for 15 years. I mean, if you want to count my first freelancing job back in the late 90s, maybe that's longer. I don't know. That's why the ish is in there. Professionally, since 2005, 2006, I've been working in local government, state, county, municipal government. I've done spatial analysis. My degrees in fluvial geomorphology and terrain stuff. I think like most of us, when we get into our careers, like all the things that you're educated and trained in kind of fall by the wayside to the demands of what your job is. And so now I'm a database administrator and program manager, and I don't get to do nearly enough science, but that's okay.
Thanks, Gary. Tonya.
Okay, hello everybody. My name is Tonya Cowie, and I'm the GIS developer at the city of Tacoma. My background is in environmental science. I graduated from UW-T. Oh, you want to go next slide, David? Thank you. I graduated from UW-T, and I've been working in GIS for about a little over 21 years, specialized in data management, visualization, analysis, system integrations, and leadership. And my interests is really are surrounded by geo-mentoring, volunteering, and as Jen mentioned, the leading the Washington Women in GIS and Technology networking group.
When I saw what these guys have all done, I thought about going back and adding a few more things to my slide, but I'll talk about ethics fairly soon. All right, your themes. Okay, so I mentioned your themes at the beginning. And so what we're going to do here is, like I said, we're going to have these one words, which each of us is going to have three of those words, and we're gonna talk about them. And then we have related themes. But what we thought we might do is get you involved as well. Okay, so Tonya, you talk about this because you did the fantastic job with this.
All right, so yeah, this is just a Mentimeter survey. If you can have your phone handy, go ahead and take it out and scan that QR code that's on the screen now, and it will take you to a survey. And really, we're just asking you to enter up up to three themes that you feel are important to building your success as a GIS professional. And we talk about themes, we talk about, David put some funny examples here: doubt, disillusionment, and drink. But they could be, you'll start to see we have things like networking and attitude and contributing and things like that. So, and we'll review these results later. If you don't have your phone, you can also go to the www.menti.com and enter that code 27645177, and you'll see the same thing. Enter up to three words, and we'll review these results later.
All right, so let's just give it just a few more seconds there. Hopefully everybody's got the code. Menti.com, menti.com, 27645177.
And I am seeing some words come through, so it looks like it's working. So
could somebody just, Tonya, when I move to the next slide, could you just type that in the chat maybe? And then that way.
Sure, except I don't see it. Do I?
It's in the Hoover chat on the
I'm not in Hoover.
page. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, let me.
Yeah. That'd be great. And I realized that by putting doubt, disillusionment, and drink, we kind of might have opened ourselves up to a little bit of ridicule here, but these are serious considerations, as you'll soon see. All right, let's keep going, shall we? Okay, so our perspectives. I'm David, and I'm going first. And we did this, by the way. We like to usually mix it up, but we really wanted to limit the number of screen shares, swaps this time, because of it can be a bit distracting. So we wanted to keep that a bit more grouped. Anyway, my first theme is control, okay? And the situation is this. I'm sure I'm not the only one on this conference call here that's dealt with unethical behavior. It's really frustrating, and if it's by other people that are alongside you, well, yeah, all right, there's not much you can do about that. But if it's by management, you're going to find yourself sat across the table, and this has happened to me more than once. You're going to find yourself sitting there arguing that, look, you're being unethical and you're being unreasonable, and you can't do that. But if they're in charge and they're paying you, you're kind of stuck. And it's a really horrible situation to be in. And it'd be interesting to know during the discussion whether or not other people have encountered this and what they did about it. And so my attitude towards unethical behavior is this. First, don't be unethical, whatever you do. Next, don't enable it. Don't allow other people to go along with this, put a stop to it as best you can. And another point is don't reward unethical behavior in any way. As a profession, we need to keep high standards on this sort of thing. This is absolutely critical. And so whatever you do, don't go rewarding this kind of behavior in any way. You've got to put a stop to it. It's really important. So as I described, I mean, this can make your life really difficult. I had a somewhat happy tenure in a job that I had for a long time, and I stayed in that job too long because when it happens, you just feel completely blindsided, flawed, you're miserable. It's hard to go into work every day, but you think, well, yeah, I'm getting paid. It's a job, what if I can't get another one? And you just tend to stay in that job a long time. I stayed in about 4 years, longer than I should have, and I should have. And then one day, they cut my position. And it was really funny because somebody in the office described it as the happiest day in 9 years that I'd been in that job. And it's true. I was absolutely thrilled. I thought, somebody made a decision that I should have made years ago. And so they cut my job. It's a little bit of a surprise, but I was ready for it because I already had the next job lined up, and I was quite happy to go. So be prepared, whatever you do, because you never quite know. But I knew I could do better. And I didn't have to put up with this stuff, and life is too short, and I should have got on with it earlier. So I switched jobs, and then the same thing happened again. And I thought, well, I'm not going to put up with this, and I quit almost immediately. And that's how I come to be working for myself. I always had this idea that I would work for myself eventually, and I thought it would be after the next job. I just didn't expect it to happen in 17 months. I thought I'd be there for a few years, but I was ready for it. So the outcome of this was that in 2012, I started my own business, and it's pretty terrifying, I've got to tell you. You know, you go from having a good salary built up over many years, and then you've got nothing coming in. And it didn't help exactly that in my apartment, I don't know why, there was something that was causing me absolutely dreadful headaches. It was awful. So not only had I quit my job and I suddenly didn't have a salary, but I was sat there at my desk at home with my head in my hands for most of that first summer, because I just thought, what am I going to do? I can't function here. I can't run my own business. But gradually, you know, things came together. So you have to have the right character to persist, you know, to be that kind of person who just muddles through and somehow makes it. You have to persist, keep working on it. And you also have to recognize, you know, what reality is for you, and especially when to quit. You know, that's very hard for people to do, you know, especially during a bad economy. That 2008, 9, 10 period wasn't the greatest economy, but you just have to do what's right for you. And this worked for me. And there are plenty of opportunities. I'm probably my biggest obstacle to not being absolutely swamped and really wealthy. You know, I mean, I'm not being arrogant saying that, but it's just a matter of time control and all that sort of thing. So there are opportunities. You've just got to find your niche, find what you're good at, and find the kind of people that you want to work with. And as I'll say a bit more very soon, I love working with the Garys of this world, for example. We're working on a project together because we're sort of equals in this game. I just know something that he doesn't. He knows things I don't. And I think that's fantastic. It's just helping people out. And I've always said that if Esri would give me 100 grand a year, I would just do whatever it takes to promote their business and help people. And that would be absolutely ideal. Now, that's not a direct request to Esri, but it sort of illustrates the point. I'm not in this to get rich or anything. I'm just doing it because I like working with great people. And those people are usually analysts, managers who have these technical capabilities, and I can just complement them. Okay. So in terms of success, I'm still running my own business. I'm still here and I'm still alive, and you know, I'm managing. I get to work with great people like Gary, like Dave Jacobus, and Luke Burgess up in Alaska. All those people, absolutely fantastic. And I'm really proud of what we've accomplished. And what I've accomplished is thanks to them. I couldn't of course do it without them, because I'd just be working in Starbucks or something. And I did actually work for Starbucks on a job the job before last. So I always joke that if everything went pear-shaped, I would work for Starbucks. But anyway, I'm proud of what I've accomplished. So yeah, character, persistence, recognition. I don't know how much these can be taught, but you know, whether you just have it, but I think we all have that ability to just push on, and especially in this country, you know, it's very British. Just if people in Britain say, let's say, for example, I told someone at home that I was going to climb Mount Rainier, which I did a couple of times, you know, they would say, well, you're going to get killed, you know, hence the cliffs thing at the beginning. You know, but if I tell someone in this country, they're going to say, wow, that's absolutely fantastic. When are you going? And it's a huge difference, because if you grow up with the former attitude, you know, that, well, you can't do anything because you'll probably die, it really influences your way of thinking and explains a lot, you know. So thanks for that American attitude. I think it really helps. So clarity, this is my second word. Clarity is absolutely critical, in my opinion, in so many ways. And I really believe that it should be taught just like maths, I prefer to call it, from England, like maths, like physics, like, you know, any of these core topics. Clarity should be up there with the rest of them. Because if you think about it, right, most projects don't fail because of technical issues, they fail because of communication issues. And I've said this before a few years ago. We did a whole series of presentations in 2014, especially in 15, on communication things. And people in Britain, there was an article in the Guardian newspaper in 2014. It said that something like 85% of all computer science graduates were essentially unemployable because they didn't have good communication skills. That was 7, 8 years ago, you know, and just a few days ago, I read another article that said that managers, especially in the tech business, developers, they were shooting themselves in the foot because they were just focusing on these algorithm type tests and things like that for hiring. But they really should be focusing on all this other stuff as well, communication abilities. So this problem is just getting worse. And it was interesting that, you know, I should read that only a couple of days ago. So really important. So attitude, professionalism and range. I just think being clear, being transparent sets you up for success, and it goes with ethics and what have you as well. Don't hide things from people and be dodgy. Professionalism is really important. And range, what that's referring to, by the way, has to do with your breadth of knowledge. Okay, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. It's not range as in rangeland. So the outcome is that if you can practice clarity and really focusing on it, you enhance understanding. You really set yourself up, hopefully, for a successful situation. Or at least if it all goes squishy, you know why, and you can learn from it. That's really important. So I don't develop black boxes. I'm really, big on that. When I develop things, if the client is interested, and most of them are, they can take what I developed, they can understand it, they can build on it if they need to, if I'm not around, or anybody else can pick up. So that's a really critical service. They can also learn from it. So I have clients like Anthony Faulkner, first American title in Portland, phenomenally nice fellow. He learns from my code. I give him code, he then dabbles in it, pulls little bits out. He's got a resource base, right? And that's really important. So you're enabling quality. So I do more than just develop products, right? And develop, in this case, development products from ArcGIS development technology. I help others. That's a really big deal. And I have a broad perspective on things because I've just always been curious about stuff. And I think that really is something that is definitely can be trained and encouraged. Just go out and learn new things, be curious, learn new things, and you'll find yourself bringing new perspectives to situations, and that will really help. So contribute. I've been a lone GIS professional in one capacity or another for a long time, as many of you have too. Probably at least half the audience here works on their own or for themselves. I have a very niche focus, and I guarantee you, if I was to talk about the details in a session, for example, on developing add-ins, I would have probably 2-3 people in the audience who care about that, and everybody else would think, oh, this guy isn't really thinking about me, I'm just lost here. So it's absolutely critical that when you're in a niche focus like this, or even broader ones, is that you think about what you can bring to the table that's beyond just the detailed technology. Okay, because there's always valuable lessons in everything we could do. You can bring out general concepts, and those are the things that you should be presenting on, that you should be telling other people about. And so you need that ability to explain things to a wider audience, and you definitely can learn that. And we hopefully could teach you that if you want to know about it. We had a session just a week ago on giving presentations, and a couple of people joined in for that, and it was great. We had an hour and a half talking about this kind of stuff, and I hope they got something out of it. So if you do this, all the things I've described, we really contribute something to our professional community. That's the goal. We nurture that community, because without it, we'd all just be floating around, and we inspire each other. I think that's the goal. So I hope this inspires you. So the outcome: many great events with many people, many events with many great people. They are great events too. I've been just thrilled to be able to do this over years. Broaden the range of content at conferences. It's funny, this is no criticism of Randy and Samantha, anybody, but when I submitted this, I said, well, there's no professional development tag. So they added one, and hopefully that stays there forever, because we're doing a lot more than technical, and this stuff is really critical. It's at least as or more critical than the rest. Hopefully we inspire other people to follow us. Many events with many great people. That's not a typo. It's exactly what I mean by success. This is fantastic stuff. And we set an example. I've said multiple times, I think, that what I really encourage you to do is, next time you have to give a presentation, rather than just looking at your project and say, right, I'm going to talk for half an hour on that and run the risk of what I just said a few minutes ago, call somebody else. Call somebody you don't know and say, hey, Northwest GIS conference is coming up. I'd like to do a presentation. Would you like to join me? Let's think of a topic and get going. And if you want to know how to do that and the formula that we use to kind of get started on these things, call us, get in touch, and I'll help you do it. And these other guys will too, because, I think it works, and I think it's helpful, and it will really be good for you. You'll be able to offer new relatable perspectives, because there's always somebody who recognizes your situation, whatever it is. Jen. over to you. Now I'm going to stop sharing and Jen is going to carry on with her slides. Can't hear you, Jen.
Sorry, I was muted.
No
Okay.
problem.
Knew I was going to do something wrong. Okay, so okay, why is it not? It's doing the I'm not going to advance thing again. Okay, here we go. So ambition. Ambition is defined as a strong desire for success, and this can be a negative word. You can see my related themes are success, personality, and goals. So I was trying to pick all A words though, because I don't know if you noticed in David's presentation, and Gary started this, we have an alliteration theme going on. So I'm making it fit. So, you know, what is success to you? So before you can be successful, you need to know what success looks like for you. And success is personal. It's like, as you heard David mention, he's developed, you know, a very niche set of skills, and that's what he likes to do. For me, I would go crazy if I tried to do that. So for me, I love to learn. I'm interested in pretty much everything. I get bored easily. I'm very independent. I like to lead and mentor, and I want to make a difference. So, and I also love GIS, and I think that everyone should be using it, and it's awesome. So taking that into account, thinking about these traits, I would define success for myself as being in a GIS leadership role in an organization that's small enough that I can work with a wide variety of people without being pigeonholed into a specific set of tasks, and making GIS, you know, more important in my organization, I guess. And once you know what success looks like for you, then work towards that success. So develop goals and let other people know what you're striving to do, because other people can definitely help you get where you want to go. So the outcome, so after I defined my ambition and set my goals to get there, I'm now a GIS program coordinator. And GIS is definitely valued in my organization, and I'm working on developing my next set of goals. Next stop manager. There is no GIS manager position in my organization, but I'm working to change that. So that's my next goal. And my success for me means that I'm working for a small local government, which means I have a lot of variety in what I do. I get to work with all sorts of people on all sorts of projects. I do program level planning, like some IT related tasks, data design and development, some scripting and application development, and a lot of other things as well. I'm also in a leadership position as the GIS program coordinator. And somehow I talked the organization into 2 new positions. So I have a GIS technician and a GIS intern that I supervise. And we also have an empty position that we're not hiring for yet. But so that all gives me a chance to mentor people at work, which I love. And in terms of the organization, GIS is prepping to be the backbone of our new ERP system. So not only is it going to be valued and used, but it's going to become a critical system that everything else runs off of in our organization. So, and ERP, I'll probably get this question. It stands for Enterprise Resource Planning, but it's like some examples of it are like currently we're on Eden. There's like SAP as an example of what an ERP system. Munis, I don't know. So anyway, my next theme is attention. And here's where some people may get uncomfortable, but I might overshare. But so I I want to talk about attention and paying attention to yourself and what's going on with you. And some related themes here are self-care, nature, and character. So this is mostly about self-care. So I was horrible at interviews, but I was great in the jobs once I landed them. But I was timid, anxious, afraid to speak up and share my ideas, and I basically lacked confidence. And this did not go unnoticed by mentors and bosses. And I tried taking trainings, reading self-help books. I tried making myself do things like present at conferences, but nothing was working. So I would prepare as much as possible and have strategies. And as soon as I started presenting, my mind would go blank. And like I could barely remember my name. And there were times when I couldn't even remember what GIS stood for. So paying attention to that, I finally, like one time, mentioned this to my doctor, and I was actually diagnosed and treated for general anxiety disorder. So it turns out that it wasn't that I wasn't trying hard enough, but something was actually like wrong with my brain and keeping me from success. So I'm still nervous when I give presentations, but I feel like it's like a normal amount of nervous now, like normal people. And this was a total life changer for me when I realized this and got treated. And I wish I had been diagnosed decades earlier, to be honest. And my success was that I gained confidence, my anxiety is under control, and I'm now able to put myself out there and go after what I want. And you can't succeed if you don't pay attention to yourself and take care of yourself. So not everyone has anxiety, but you also can't succeed if you're suffering from, say, stress or burnout, if you're not getting enough sleep or generally just not taking care of yourself. So be sure to take care of yourself, and you'll go a long way to actually meeting your goals, I guess. Achieving your goals, that's what I mean. So my last theme is awareness. And this is similar to some other people's themes. Some related themes are recognition, environment, and opportunity. So my situation was I was in a dead-end job. I worked in more than one toxic and hostile working environment. So this one in particular, no matter how much I succeeded and was appreciated by others, like coworkers and colleagues and others in other departments in the organization, my boss and my director were not supportive, and I didn't feel like they respected me. They never listened to my opinions or ideas, but they would bring them up like a month later as their own and then implement them. So that was frustrating. Or I would say something and get shot down, and a male colleague would then say the exact same thing in the same meeting, and they'd say, "Oh, that's a great idea. Tell me more. Let's talk about that. I want to do that." So it was really frustrating. Also, my boss would play favorites and would rotate so that each month it was somebody else's turn to be like shunned and ridiculed, and they couldn't do anything right. And it was just really a horrible situation. And the director would actually pit people against each other, and he just loved to sit back and watch the drama. So finally, after working in multiple environments such as this for many years, I found a new job, and my new boss, director, CEO, coworkers, everyone we're all very supportive, and we all wanted each other to succeed. And it was such a great environment. And I discovered that not all jobs come with a toxic work environment. And a lot of people are like, duh, but I thought that's what jobs were. So it's not. And if you're in a toxic work environment, you'll really struggle to succeed. And it's okay to be aware when you're in a bad situation and go somewhere else. Sometimes you're just not going to change the organization or the people around you, and it's okay to leave. And so for me, success did come after I left. At my new job, I was promoted to manager after a few years. GIS became recognized as an enterprise system. We even won a SAG award from Esri, which was really cool. And sometimes it's not you. And no matter how hard you try, you're just in the wrong environment. So recognize that and move on. And now I'm going to turn it over to Gary. Stop sharing.
Gary, you're muted.
Once again.
Don't worry.
Everybody see that?
Yes.
Great. Before I kick this off, I would just like to say, at the very beginning of this thing, David sent a long list of these themes, right? These keywords. And when I opened this document and looked at it, I saw 3 that immediately was like, oh, I got to do those. And I have very deep professional respect and admiration for my co-panelists here. And if one of them had said, oh, you know, I'd like to do that, there would not have been an altercation. But I am glad it is me that gets to take us down this dark and awkward and uncomfortable path. So my first word is paranoia. And I propose that cultivating a sense of paranoia can be a good thing. My situation was that I was working for a small consultant, tiny, like a 1 PI and a couple of biology people, a field manager, and then, you know, your seasonal cast of field folks. And I worked there for a year. It was fine. It was a job. And then, like, the temperature changed. Something shifted. And I started to worry. It just, something was not right. I couldn't put my finger on it. It got to the point when I went to the PI and said, hey, is everything cool here? Am I in trouble? And there's like, no. At that point, I started to get into this ugly loop of like, oh, you're fooling yourself, Gary. There's nothing wrong. My work suffered. I got to the point where I didn't want to go into the office because something was deeply wrong. Well, when you feel that, right, your brain's a machine for reading other people's faces and behaviors. And even if like the upper level consciousness stuff is saying, nah, you're just making things up, something is going on underneath. And just because you do have a paranoid feeling, it doesn't mean they are not out to get you. And as a consequence, I started feeling like I needed to hit the eject button. I put out feelers. I started applying for jobs, and it turns out I showed up to work one day and my login didn't work and they laid me off. They had negotiated a big 2-year contract and it didn't have any GIS in it. And rather than pay me to sit on my butt for 2 years, I mean, they made a business decision. I can't argue with. And when it happened, I had started to brace for impact just because I felt, you know, this thing was wrong and I couldn't put a finger on it. The success portion of this was that I wasn't wrong-footed when it happened. You know, I had enough warning from my gut or subconscious or whatever you want to call it, that in another situation, I could have been like completely low, like blindsided, spun up. At least I had enough warning to land on my feet. I was able to exit with a modicum of grace. Like I wasn't happy. Nobody's ever happy when they get laid off, right? Particularly when it's the old, oh, by the way, you can't log in anymore and you don't work here. Clean out your stuff. I was still able to shake the guy's hand when I left and say, hey, thanks. I learned something while I was working here. And I had started to assemble the pieces for the next step of my career, right? And the related themes to this are awareness, boundaries, and control. And the boundaries sense, not like, you know, parcel boundaries or county boundaries or whatever, but boundaries of what you're willing to accept. I plowed right through my own boundaries in those, I don't know, six-ish months that I worked at this place, and just felt worse and worse and worse. Like the shadows are growing around me and I don't know what to do about it. Much like David had talked about his ethical conundrum, if I had immediately gone out, nope, this isn't right, I'm out, I'd have been in a better place. So continuing the alliteration theme, my next word is procrastination. And so I gotta do real talk here. Procrastination can also be a good thing. Procrastination, I'm sure all of us have ended up with a project that lands in our laps and we go, what? This? Oh no. Maybe they're like pet theories that someone in another department has, and because it involves a map somehow, it gets tossed to you. Maybe it's a solution looking for a problem to find. You know, the person who comes to you and says, you know what I need? I need an analysis of vehicle miles traveled, cross-indexed with radio stations listened to. And you're, what? How do you, I don't even know. What? So these things, when they fall in our laps, it's okay to be too busy. It's okay to say something like, that sounds really great. I got such a workload. Can I get back to you in 2 weeks on this? And if they don't like ring your office phone and don't get back to you, just let it die. Let it die. It's all right. And the flip side of that is maybe other people are like this. Maybe I am weird and unique and alone. I work well under pressure. And I have since since when I first started college and became an adult and realized that, oh no, I have a deadline. And if I don't do this thing by the deadline, I'm hosed. Well, and I still work that way. And if I got a project that's due on Friday, well, Thursday morning, I finally fire up ArcGIS Pro and go, all right, how am I going to make this happen? And the themes for this are ethics, right? Is it ethical? Is it ethical for me to even say this stuff? I'm not super sure. I think so. And nature, there are A types and B types, and my nature is what it is. I'd go mad if I tried to do and be a different way. So the outcome for intelligently applied procrastination is that you'll have projects that just they wither up and go away. That's fine, because if you're not motivated to work on them and the person pitching that project isn't motivated to come to you with it, was it that important? No, evidentially it was not. And you will, if you apply procrastination, you'll get projects done last minute. And that's the breaks. Sometimes that gets real stressful and crowded right there at the end. And it's just choosing to work that way. Is procrastinating your way out of a project a little passive aggressive? It is. And kind of rolling back reincorporating David's theme of clarity, some people aren't clear communicators, and communicating clearly at them, maybe that's received as bullying or intimidating or something. And sometimes you have to communicate at their level. And if that means kind of being a little passive aggressive and just not chasing down the thing that they mentioned to you once, then that's how the game is played. Successfully applied procrastination is when the thing gets done, everybody's happy. If you are saying things like, just 2 weeks, man, I've got ArcGIS Pro projects from here to the ceiling. I'll get back to it as soon as I can. When it gets done, you and everyone else can be relieved. It's done, despite the heavy workload that came before it and will come after it. It's managing your workload. If you can't come out and boldly say, I don't want to do this because this idea is crap, cycle that into your workload however you can. If that means kicking that can down the road a couple of days and a couple of more days, that's what it does. And conservation of labor, that's capitalized. I'm trying to riff on conservation of energy and matter, right? I think that I am in a business transaction with my employer, right? And my labor has a value. I am renting my abilities and presence here to them for, my salary. If I overspend my energy and emotional labor on a thing, like who does that benefit? Does that benefit my employer, who ultimately is a big organization that doesn't care? Like this, if you're working for yourself, like David, the only person that he's reporting to is himself. So maybe that conservation of labor stuff doesn't apply, because if David's not hustling, then the clients aren't showing up. But for people not in that position, don't burn yourself out, as Jen had talked about, self-care, conserve your labor so that when you need it, you got it. And the last one is less dark and ugly and awkward. It's persistence. Maybe paranoia and procrastination support this. Like they give you some energy to beat your head against that brick wall one more time, and maybe this time it's going to crack instead of you're developing a bump on the noggin. There is something that you want, and maybe it's a promotion, maybe it's a facet of the program. For me, it was drones. I'm the drone program manager at the city of Lacey. And in 2018, my boss was like, hey, you know what? We got a little budget overage. Maybe we should buy a drone. And I thought, yeah, I'd manage a drone program. Let's do that. And within the city bureaucracy, there were people who thought that drones were like, that's a waste of time. That's toys. You mean we're going to pay you your salary to take a remote control airplane out and fly it around? No. That was the impediment. And I just had to tough it out. Like I found myself really for the first time in my career running into other people, peers in my organization, who didn't want me to have a thing. I don't think it was personal. I think it was just them feeling like they're good stewards of the taxpayers' money. And I had to outblast them, right? In the way that makes room for self-care. When you do that persistence thing, and when you get it, you got it. I'm managing a drone program now, and it has brought value to the city. It has changed the way that we do infrastructure inspection. It has given us project oversight and project management tools. It's even something so like silly and short notice as someone saying, hey, we have a void out at the gravel pit that we'd like to fill. Gary, do you know any way that we could figure out how many cubic yards of fill we're gonna have to put into this void? I do, and I can make it happen in an hour. You do things like that. Once you've got it, you've turned people to your side. People notice that when you punch your way through it and get the thing, they notice your success. And that sets you up to get those things, if you make a pitch for something in the future, you've already established a reputation as the person who can get the thing. And that's really rewarding. It hurt and it sucked to have to go toe to toe with people in my organization and say, when they said, I don't think this is a good idea, to tell them, peers and, like director level people, you're wrong. You're wrong, and this is a good idea, and here's why. So when I finally got it, that was super rewarding, and it's mine. Like the drone program is mine. I get to check the boxes for who gets to fly. I get to manage the telemetry. I get to say, this is a good drone, this is a bad drone, this is one we're buying, this is one we're not, here's why. And the best revenge is to outlive your enemies. And some of the people who disapproved of this whole thing, they've retired, they're gone, and I'm here, and we have drones. And the related themes for this is vision, brand, and opportunity, right? Vision for persisting through to get that thing that you want. Brand for like I've got drones associated with me, and when anyone in the city needs something, they come to me first, and that's kind of cool. And opportunity in the sense that here's not just that you make one, but when it appears, like you sink your teeth into it and just don't let go. And now over to Tanya.
Okay, thanks, Gary. Hopefully you can see my screen here. So let me get the next slide. So when the first word I'm going to talk about is networking. So the first theme that really has made a difference in my direction of my professional career is definitely networking. So I spent over 17 years in consulting, and so networking was really expected. But early in my career, the word networking really scared me. For one thing, I'm pretty much an introvert, and maybe like you, hearing the word networking made me think of a salesperson pressuring me into buying something, I probably didn't need. I also thought, wait, isn't that what we have a marketing department for? And wasn't that really is that really part of my job or their job? So I really had to move past some common misconceptions for networking, such as, people are either naturally gifted at networking or they're not, and it's difficult to change. Relationships should form naturally and not really have this forced kind of, oh, we got to do some networking now. And networks are inherently self-serving or selfish. And so, really when I started learning more about networking in ways that fit within how my comfort level at the time, at its core, it's just finding ways to intentionally build a relationship. And there are lots of ways to network that may work for you. And the related themes here are community, brand, and obviously relationships. So when I started thinking about an easy way to start building my network and to network, I started to not just attend conferences, but participate in them. And I think, David alluded to this earlier, it's really important to start participating in these things because, I started seeing my career advance when I started, submitting maps in the map gallery, doing presentations, and just volunteering in general. This provided me opportunities to meet and interact with people in different ways, more than just attending. They started seeing me as a leader or a technical expert if I was giving a presentation in something technical. Obviously you see these people and go, wow, they're amazing. And that's the person I want to talk to if I'm having issues with something technical. And the more I participated, the more I got to know people outside my company too. So building that kind of traditional network. It also made me get noticed inside my organization. I mean, when you're working for a consulting firm, you really want to use every opportunity to share what you and your company does. And you sort of look more like a team player, like you want to participate and be part of something larger, just coming to work and getting a paycheck every day. And because we're meeting all these great new geo professionals I met through my initial networking efforts, I was invited to participate in the very first Washington Women and GIS and Technology Networking Group. And so you can see here we have a photo of our group in 2013. There was just 8 of us, and Jen was part of that group. And now we have about 125 members, and I'm one of the primary leaders of this group. And so here are some additional photos of us. What we do with the group is we provide opportunities to empower women to teach, learn, and promote GIS and technology through technical meetings. We have social hours, book clubs, we volunteer, we've created maps all together to provide to, in the map galleries at conferences. So it's really been a unique and a rewarding experience for me. And I really think this group has made a huge impact on my career. It's been by far one of the most rewarding experiences. And I really do love seeing people grow and support one another. Being involved in this group has really made me realize it's a small world and it's important to kind of stay connected with people around you. Even when the pandemic hit, we were kind of like, should we still have virtual social hours and how are we going to do this? But really our attendance almost doubled as people were really looking for ways to maintain those connections and feel like you're part of something. And this is really a great way to understand not only your business, because you have to talk about it to other people about what you do and what your organization does, but it really allows you to understand other people's business and what other people do. So you never know, if you're learning about something new that you'd never heard of, and that might be of interest to you, you never know where these relationships may lead. And it may take you down a totally unexpected career path. So, networking is really just one great way to intentionally build those relationships and meet amazing people. All right, let me get, oops, sorry. Advanced slide here. Okay, so my next word is nurture. And this, I think this theme helped me in my career. And when I think of nurturing, just to clarify, I'm really talking about mentoring. And in my experience, mentoring is about just surrounding yourself with people who you can help grow and learn. And it's a two-way street. You can have a mentor or you can become a mentor. And I think most people think mentoring has to be a formal process. And I really respectfully disagree. I've been involved with a lot of formal mentoring programs, well, not a lot, but a couple. And, I feel the formal process always got in the way, as it kind of took more time and to coordinate, and it kind of felt forced when here's your mentor, they kind of put you together with somebody you think you're going to match with. And so overall in my career, professional mentoring, I've been really lucky to have people that I've been surrounded by very supportive people. So even though they weren't officially called mentors, they provided that support and coaching and direction a mentor would. And so one of the things I'm passionate about is helping support STEM learning in schools. And so in that kind of theme of creating opportunities, to share what you love, I would like to share my experience about mentoring, or really geo-mentoring kindergarten through fifth graders at my nephew's elementary school. And let me get the next slide here. Okay. Oops. There we go. Sorry, got too far. There we go. Okay. I would like to, so I was initially asked to teach about what geoprofessionals do a few years ago at a GIS Day event at my nephew's school. And I really enjoyed that so much that I offered to teach GIS in one of my nephew's classrooms. And then as I did that, more classrooms asked for me to come and teach, GIS that integrate with their lessons. So this was really not only fun for me, but it also provided more opportunities for me to teach GIS to kids, and something that I really hadn't done before. And it really made me think about how I was teaching GIS. For example, most of the formal GIS lessons plans out there available, and there are lots of them online to teach, GIS to kids or younger students. But they were a little too advanced for this level. So coordinating with the teachers was vital to understanding, what would work well in their classroom and be engaging, but wouldn't be too advanced. And so, for example, we ended up creating GIS lesson plans from their storybook. So they had, for example, a storybook they were reading, I think it was called "The Dish Ran Away with a Spoon," that had a really great map of the little village in it. And we took that map and just started talking about basic map elements, direction, scale, and then we use that for them to answer questions and concepts, from the map for their lessons. Like, for example, where's Miss Muffet's house in relation to the dish, things like that. So really simple, really fun way to do it. Another class, they learned about sound energy, and I wasn't really sure how am I going to map sound energy, and to integrate with their lessons. And so we ended up using a mobile app to record and map sound levels around the school at different times of the day. We created a story map and then presented the results at the parents' night. And, just really kind of simple, fun ways to integrate GIS with their existing lesson plans. And because of the relationships built, I was also asked to teach an after-school girls coding club. And, now I wasn't an experienced coder at the time, but it was exciting to help these young girls get exposed to coding, learn about coding, again, keeping it simple. We used online resources to get started, and we used a modified basic form of JavaScript to just create some interactive greeting cards and games. And they loved it. They had a great time, and I learned probably more than they did. And it was a really great experience. So if you're interested in mentor the next generation of geo professionals, really just share what you love. Start small. Never too young to learn about GIS, and really, just again, keep those lessons simple. When I first started, I really thought, oh no, we have to teach them everything about GIS. Show them all the cool apps and maps and processes, and to make a difference. And that's really not true. And I also got a chance to learn about technology technology that I maybe not would have been exposed to in my typical day, or thought about things like, we did a landslide lesson, and I hadn't mapped landslides in a very long time in my day-to-day job, but it was fun to kind of dig into the data and have to teach them, about and the lesson was, where would you build a house, using some landslide information, and, just different things. It just exposes you to other things outside your day-to-day. And I think it was also really important to integrate with their projects. I think their learning objectives, as we think about being GIS professionals, we strive for this every day. We want to integrate GIS with the business needs and solve the real world problems. And integrating with their projects was very similar. You had to kind of apply GIS in the realm of what they were learning or trying to solve, essentially. And if you want to find a mentor, I think just finding people you are interested in what they do and asking them for a short conversation or a coffee, to start the relationship from there. Most people love sharing about what they do. And again, I don't think it has to be a formal process. I mean, if somebody comes up to you and says, hey, can you be my mentor? That might be a lot of pressure, right? Like, what does that mean? And how much time? And, you start to get a little nervous. And I've never said no to talking about myself and sharing my experiences. So most people, love doing that. So, all right. All right, so my next theme is now. So especially, oops, sorry, I apologize. I'm having trouble with my clicker here. Early in my career, especially early in my career, I would attend conferences and see these amazing presentations, all the great work people do. And I would think, boy, I never could do that. Those people, man, they're special. They're way smarter than I am. So I would just pretty much say, no, that's okay. Yeah, I don't want to present, or even internally at work, I would just kind of like, no, that's okay. But as I moved through my career, I realized that, hey, maybe I could do that. And then why not me? And then why not right now? Why am I passing all these opportunities by just because I'm a little nervous about it? So I started saying yes when people asked me to present, even when I was nervous. And, a couple years ago, someone in my professional network, and yes, again, it's sometimes who asked me to speak at the State GIS Day event as the keynote speaker. And of course, my immediate reaction was like, oh, keynote, what do you mean? No way. How could I do that? I'm no one special. I haven't read a book, or I don't lead this huge, big GIS organization. But I really did take my own advice and I said yes. And, even though I was extremely nervous, I practiced and survived. Imagine that. And from this experience, I gained confidence and I gained experience giving a non-technical presentation. And overall, my presentation was well received. And from this event, I was asked to present at a NWGIS meeting, and NWGIS stands for National State Geographic Information Council. They're a state-led forum for developing, exchanging, and endorsing geospatial technology. They do a lot of great work. I was asked to present at one of their meetings, and then so some attendees were attending that event, and then they asked me to speak at 2 more state GIS conferences, Indiana and Arizona. So it really does show that, being focused about what you present, putting yourself out there, getting to know something like you're an expert in, or you're kind of an authority in, can really make a difference when you are looking at, take that opportunity and you just, again, try to be intentional with it. And then, yeah, you never know where it's really going to go. So the other thing is, if you say no too often, they may stop asking. And I do want to clarify that, saying no to things is fine, especially when, we've heard some really great examples of self-care. You don't want, to get to the point where you're overwhelmed or you got too much on your plate, and, that's not what I'm saying. But I mean, just be aware, if you say no all the time, they may stop asking you to do certain things. But so I would say yes to things that make you feel uncomfortable, because that's usually where you have the most opportunity for growth. If your little voice is saying, oh, you can't do that, you probably need to work on that a little bit. And it's really fun to share what you're passionate about. You never know who you may inspire. You gain public speaking skills. And if you're presenting on a topic, you're recognized as the expert. So if you're trying to direct your your career path in a certain direction, or focus on a certain skill set, this is a really great way to do this. And again, I like this little quote, this little graphic here, go for it. Whether it ends good or bad, it was an experience. You can kind of chalk it up to put it in, hey, I learned something from that. And then the related takes here of obviously opportunity, engage, and promotion. And I think with that, I'm going to send it back to David to talk about our next perspective.
Yes, and you're going to keep going with the slides. Thank you.
Yes.
So we'll just to summarize the things we said there. First, could you go to the next slide for me, Tonya? All right, so what we did here, and Tonya, thank you very much for doing this. This idea of these words, it came about because in the planning process, we took 4 or 5 phone calls of an hour each or so to prepare for this. And we go through a process of, and in the beginning, we all agreed that we would have about 5 topics. And those 5 topics, I think it was 5, were in the abstract, because we had to get that in. And it said, we're going to talk about attitude and recognition and things like that. And then we all went away and thought, well, yeah, but if we all talk about attitude recognition and 2 other things, that's it. We're kind of limiting ourselves. So I came back and I said, you know what, I can't do this. We need a bigger list. And so we gradually got this list with all sorts of humorous things on it as well. And then we started picking stuff and we went away and we came back and it turned out that, for example, control is important to the group of us, opportunity, community, these things sort of pop out, persistence here, they pop out, and we all had the same ideas. And obviously we chose different groups of, I had C's and Jen had A's and Gary had P's and Tonya had N's there, but we had all these other words as well. So this is a nice summary, if you like, of what we came up with. And I will say this, just to comment on what we heard there. I think what these guys did was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, you can't ask for more than that. And as I say, this is nothing technical at all, but it's hugely critical. And what Jen did there, and I noticed that some people related to this in the chat, was just absolutely incredible. I mean, it takes huge guts to do what Jen just did. And, if we're in a room, I'd say give her a round of applause, because that is very, very difficult to do. And I'm from the north of England, and we say what we think, and we say anything, so I guess that part comes naturally. Gary, you said, you felt weird and alone. Well, you know what, look where you are, you're in that scary hotel in Colorado there. So, you asked for it. And you said, is it okay to say these things? And I think, going back to what Jen just said there, absolutely. And it isn't said enough. You have to answer these questions. You have to ask these questions. You have to put this stuff out. But it's really, really difficult to do. It takes so much guts. So great point there. Tonya, I can't believe that, Gary and I think we've always probably been the kind to just, get out and say stuff, even though, by the way, it is scary every time. You have to put in the effort. You have to prepare. What happened a couple of hours ago, the internet went down. If I hadn't put in hours and hours to prepare for that, it would have been a disaster. I hope that you could see that I picked it up and carried on and recovered from it quickly. You have to put in the time. It doesn't happen instantly. But, you look at what Tonya does and the way she presents herself. I don't believe anything she said about lacking confidence. And I think the same with Jen. I think, maybe they just made that stuff up, for a nice story. I don't know. I think it's incredible. So yeah, confidence is something you just have to get out there and give it a go. And it's going to be difficult, but do it. And I'm reminded too, just last thing, Chris Felker is someone up in Alaska. I hope you get to meet him. Relatively new to the GIS game in about 2015-16 time. He went to Alaska with no job, nothing lined up, started asking people, and first person said, yeah, I'll help you. And then they just vanished. And he got himself a job. And now he is the president of the Alaska ARC user group. I mean, that just shows right there, step up and do it, and don't let the establishment of the GIS world stop you. That's my biggest complaint about some organizations, is that there is a bit of an establishment, and you have to break through that and say, no, I want to go, and if you're, like the Alaska group and this one, they'll let you, and great things can happen. So those are our words. And next slide, Tanya, please. So your perspectives. Okay, next one. So I'll let Tanya talk about the word cloud for what you said. There we go. So Tanya, do you want to say a few words?
Yeah, so this is, you guys, thank you. We had 37 people enter some words, and this was, again, the 3 themes that you felt are important to building your success as a GIS professional. So as you can see, word cloud, so the more people put it in, the larger the word got. So networking looked like it was really on the tops, but as you can see, confidence, collaboration, all good ones. I think, where was one? You know, engaging with community. There was another one, you know, determination, I thought was a really good one. Education. Yeah. So, you know, lots of really, hopefully you related to what we said, but again, I think this list really should, you know, some people probably have some experience with some of these words and relate to how their career has gone and success, because all of these are very important as well.
Thank you, Tanya. That's, yeah, and thank you everybody for doing that. This is very helpful. I hope that was useful for you. So next slide, please. So your perspectives. The time now is 11:45. We were scheduled to start this piece at about, well, according to the time, not about 11:36 or so. So we're just running a little bit behind. We have 4 slides left, and we had scheduled 2 minutes each for those slides. We'll do 1 minute. We'll go really fast. So let's take about 10 minutes now. And why don't you? And I think we wanted originally that you'd be able to pop in and talk. And Randy is the magician; he'll be able to figure something out, or just use the chat. But what would be nice, if possible, is if you entered those words, or you just want to get involved, tell us why you picked that theme, and if you can, just quickly, not 3 minutes this time, but think of situation, outcome, success. If you could just give us a snappy, this was my situation, this was the outcome, this is how I succeeded, the lessons for the rest of us, that would be absolutely brilliant if you would like to contribute something here. So please go ahead. And Randy, you're on, I think, here, and maybe you can drive this. And if somebody would like to type in the list, and Tanya, if you go 1 more slide forward now. So situation, outcome, success. These are the words. Somebody who said, one of those, please do pop up, and we'll watch the chat here. Anybody would like to say anything here?
I'm not seeing anything in the chat. This is Randy, by the way, speaking from the depths back here. But yeah, there is some in the Q&A. I don't know if you want to read any of those.
Oh, in the Q&A. Okay, right. All right. Sorry. Yes. All right then. Well, I'll tell you what. Gary, would you like to? Everybody's heard enough of me. Would you like to read the Q&A questions out so we have a different voice on this?
Yeah, sure. Just a second here. Sorry, it's going to take me a moment to navigate through this.
Yeah, sorry, I put you on the spot there, Gary, but I figured that you'd step up nicely.
I don't know whether I have too many monitors or not enough monitors. Q&A.
I noticed there's questions about other things than what we just asked there, so we could,
sure,
if nobody wants to do that.
Sure, no. Do you just want me to read through these?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, why not?
Right.
Yeah.
Great. A question, Tanya, are there opportunities to volunteer in teaching younger children?
Yes, actually, I mean, yeah, we could connect you. Also, there's a really great actual geo-mentoring program through the American Association of Geographers. They actually have a program that you can sign up for as a geo professional, and they pair you with other people, that teachers that are looking for professionals to come and speak in their classrooms. But yeah, we're always looking for people to help do that. Or my suggestion, honestly, because teachers are so busy, sometimes just find a teacher, and that's why I started with my nephew's school. And just offer, hey, this is what I can do. Are you interested? And I bet they would not say no. But yeah, so I would start there. But yeah, AAG has a great actual geo mentoring program to sign up, and they'll pair you with teachers. So
can I just Sorry, Gary, can I just
go
say,
ahead.
somebody
please.
said that I would like to hear some examples of management ethics issues that David mentioned. Somebody else, well, the person who asked that question, Seth, do you have any of your own? And can you add a bit more? Or somebody else, because I can't be the only one, you know, I know I'm not the only one. Would you like to give us a bit more? And maybe you can write in the chat if you're not able to talk. A bit quiet.
While that's happening, shall I hit the next one?
Yeah, go on. Yeah,
Sure.
if anybody wants to write in the chat, go ahead.
We have a question. How do you feel required skills vary for work in government positions versus private sector?
Everybody's quiet. I guarantee that if this was a room full of people, we'd kind of stare them out and go, come on, guys. I mean, Gary, do you want to say something about that? You work in local government. Yeah.
Sure. Most of my experiences in government, my private sector experience, as you heard me say under the paranoia heading, was educational. I would say that the skill set that I think that I developed in my government career that I did not get any development on as the private sector is the ability to negotiate a bureaucracy. My private sector employment was very, very, like, it was a small organization. And if I needed a thing, I didn't have to do a bunch of jockeying and maneuvering to get it. I just went to the PI and said, I want 4 more ArcGIS licenses for our data entry people. And working in the government sector, particularly in municipal government, local, state, and so on, there's a process, like budgets and budget requests and purchase orders and going into finance and talking to the people in the finance office. Bureaucratic negotiation, which, you know, is clarity of communication. So thanks for that, David. That's the skill set. You know, if you're working in some government capacity, being able to communicate clearly and knowing how to navigate the labyrinth of departments and directors and personalities.
Seth said there, well, I'm wanting to know how to recognize it. Well, that's very philosophical there. Seth, are you on the chat? You've got a couple of questions in there, so if you can add anything, or you could talk to us afterwards, you know, and I'm curious there. It seems like you do relate to some of this. Anybody, is the chat working for everybody? Because I'm not seeing anything at all in the chat really, apart from those earlier comments. Well, should we just wrap up? It is 11:52. We were scheduled to go at 11:51 with the closing. Should we do that now? Yeah. So Tanya, you have control. Well, thank you everybody for especially for that that themes Menti thing there. That was really great. So we've got one slide each here, and we're just going to wrap up based on what we said. So Tanya, please go ahead.
Okay. Great. Yeah. So we're just going to wrap up with, you know, kind of a summary of our themes that we focused on. So, you know, and again, networking, my related themes were community, brand, and relationship. You know, basically here, relationships can open doors. So, you know, don't be afraid to get out there, find what works for you, you know, be authentic, be yourself, and just, you know, start small. But I would recommend getting involved with a networking group. I think for me, that has provided, you know, a lot of opportunities that I wouldn't have expected. Or have found within my own organizations. Nurturing, so again, that's mentoring, related themes, mentoring, control, and contribute. You know, this is for me, finding ways to share what you love. And again, that's open doors and ways to not only hopefully inspire, you know, young geoprofessionals or other people to, you know, share what they love or find different ways to look at our problems and, you know, using GIS, but really just opened up other avenues that I would have never really thought of. And it's been fun. I mean, that's really what it's about. It's about the this is what I'm passionate about, is to kind of teaching and helping young kids exposure to GIS. So. And then now really for me, it's the opportunity, engagement, and promotion. So really comes down to this, get uncomfortable sometimes. That's where you have the most opportunity to grow. So, all right, now I'm going to hand it back to Jen.
All right. So talk about ambition, which really I was talking about success, and it's personal, depends on your personality and your own goals. So define your success and go after it. For attention, I was really talking about self-care, and that's kind of about your nature and your character as well. So attend to your needs and don't be afraid to get help. And if you don't pay attention to your needs, and if you don't practice self-care, you're not going to succeed. You might succeed in the short term, but you can't keep going like that, and eventually you'll crash and burn. So take care of yourself. And then lastly, awareness, recognition, environment, opportunity. Recognize when you're in a bad environment, and find the opportunity to leave. You can leave a bad situation. That's, not how all jobs are. Some organizations are bad. I just happened to find a bunch of them at the beginning of my career. You can, there's better out there. Go find it.
So I want to thank Tanya for saying a word that I flailed at with a butterfly net of verbiage, but did not manage to catch. And that word is intention. And I think that all of us have talked around intention. And certainly as far as the stuff I was talking about, all these things need to be done intentionally. If you are not intentionally paranoid and not intentionally cultivating that inner alarm bell, you'll wreck yourself. Everything and everyone will start to seem threatening, and you spend all your time analyzing what's going on and none of your time doing anything about it. So intentional paranoia, when you can trust your gut and listen to your gut and know when you've invoked that, it will serve you better. Intentional procrastination. If you don't intentionally procrastinate, if you're just put it off until later, then when all the bills come due, you're hosed. You drown under the work. So intentionally procrastinate. And persistence, of course, if you don't intentionally, you don't pick when to be persistent and you just ram into every problem, again, you'll wreck yourself. You've got all these things that I have said, and I don't want to characterize my other panelists, but I think that they have said as well, is that you need to pick these. You need to know that you're doing them. That's what I got.
All right, thanks, guys. So my words were control first, related themes, character, persistence, and recognition. I guess I am a bit of a character. I can't help it. I persist, and I always have. And recognition. Yeah, I said before, I stuck in a job 4 years too long. I was getting paid well, but I was horribly miserable, and I had to get out, and they made a decision for me. And I think the lesson is, I think we've all done that. I don't know how many people I've talked to that said, I said, well, why do you start your own business? Well, because my boss was an idiot. Yeah, I mean, they made the move, and we should all learn from that. And I think if you have a bad situation once, the next time, don't fall in that same trap. So recognize what's going on around you and make the move, and take control. Don't be controlled. And when it's time to move on, get on with it. That just reinforces what I said there. You gotta get on with it. Clarity, related themes here, attitude, professionalism, and range. And as I said before, that's range in broad experience, breadth of capabilities, and so on. And we will have another presentation, hopefully for Washington URISA on that topic there. Be as clear as possible and you'll clearly see the benefits. I wrote that and I thought afterwards, well, that sounds like a marketing slogan, that, but you know, it is absolutely true. I think clarity, like I said before, critically underrated as a skill, as a topic. It should be pretty much number one, because there's a whole science to it, and it would make a massive difference if we could just think and see clearly and honestly, you know, of course. And contribution, community, nurture, inspiration are the related themes. You can do whatever you want to help others, and there are no rules. Now, I say that very strictly, not as a maverick or anything like that. You know, I remember back in 2008 when I decided to start doing things for lone GIS professionals, and some of you, I think, were there. And I remember calling up Heather at Esri, and I said, you know, Heather, can you give me 90 minutes for the Washington URISA conference? I called her up from the developer summit where I had this idea, and she said, well, what are you going to do? I said, oh, don't worry, I'll do something, you know, and I'll get some other people involved and it'll be great, you know, we'll just do something. And she said, well, all right then, you know. Now I was lucky because I had a bit of a reputation, I was known, and she let me get away with that. But the point is that I think conference sessions, I am not a big fan of the 25 minutes and 5 minutes format. I'm really not. I like the idea of collaboration. Now, obviously this morning, you know, it went out the window slightly because of the technical matters, but you know, try to get people involved, because a collaboration session is much more fruitful usually than just you talking about your favorite thing or your project or whatever, you know, as good as it may be. So there are no rules. Just get that 30-minute, 60, 90-minute session wherever you can. And if a conference committee won't let you do that, start your own event, you know, and these guys will tell you how you do that, you know, and have the guts to do it. So all right, well, it's 12 o'clock now, and thank you again for being here with us and listening to this. And again, Tonya, Gary, and Jen, thank you so much for what you offered here. And Jen, again, you know, well done. I mean, huge, immense respect for what you did there, and I think everybody else has too. So thank you so much. All right, that's it. And
Thanks,
the slides
everybody.
are available here, and will be as part of the conference. Thank you.
Thanks.